What? Y'all thought I was scared? Y'all don't know me very well. Wow. So y'all was like, yeah, you don't talk about them white folk. You don't talk about hip-hop beats all the time. You don't know about all that. Man, I know about Brangelina and all that crazy stuff they do, mixing people names up. I'm aware. Listen. It's like this, man. And I ain't finna waste nobody's time making up stuff and all that. I don't do that here. We go all the way back to the beginning and we tell it to you straight. No matter what Hollywood thinks. Now, we'll look at both sides. Now, you look at Brad Pitt at the time. What was he doing? He was getting married to Jennifer Aniston. He was the it man in Hollywood. Now, you look at the other side of the coin. What was Angelina Jolie doing? At this point, she had split up with Billy Bob Thornton. Billy Bob Thornton was with Laura Dern from Jurassic Park that we love so much. She went to go shoot a movie and she came back. Billy Bob was married to Angelina Jolie. But she was always mentally disturbed, which made her a fairly decent actor, more than a decent actor when it came to playing the type of roles she was accepting, like Original Sin or Girls Interrupted. Girl Interrupted is what got her Academy Award and everything else, because she could play those complex roles because she's mentally complex. Through her childhood, she was very attached to her mother, and she had a lot of pain in her heart for her father. So she went to date somebody who was older, who reminded her of her father, wanted to make out in front of him and all that stuff on the stage to try to embarrass him because she was hurting. And Billy Bob thought, man, like, this is true love, and he was just completely ended up embarrassed by the entire situation when it was all over, because he is dealing with somebody who was not mentally stable at all. She was basically using him as a character. Then Brad Pitt was what she wanted, and she, after that phase was over, she was, I need to get next to Brad Pitt. You know, that's what she wanted so bad. Her second Tomb Raider thing, I think, flopped. And it was time for something new. And she's used to being the it girl, the sexy girl, and everybody giving her these contracts because of her lips, and everything about Angelina Jolie was just considered to be the hottest thing in the world. So they're going to put her in this movie that was supposed to go to Will and Jada, ended up being accepted by Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie to play this role. Now, from the moment they got on the set, she was building chemistry with Brad, and hanging out, and she would just rush to get to work, and all of this was just poor timing, because they had basically been together a short period of time. They just bought this big multi-million-dollar house, Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston, and this was a PR disaster. Everybody's talking about all the fire on the set, and the words that Angelina Jolie was using in the press was just mind-boggling as to why she would do that. Like, talk about a married man like that. Like, but she was like crushing. But she was like, okay, well, maybe they're just doing this to sell the movie. My husband would tell me something. She talked to him. He's like, oh yeah, they're eating it up. Like, he act like nothing was going on. Like, it was just another day at the office, telling her how much he loved her and all this stuff while he's doing the movie. Next thing you know, there have been like real reports like, look, they're not really hiding it. Like, they're going out doing stuff like this is getting out of hand. So once the movie was over, they still stayed private, and then they ended up, of course, we all know where it ended up being now. But at that time, they had to go meet in private and having sex on in weirdest places, and it was the spontaneity that he loved, Pitt, that he missed out on. Like, this is what I like, just the passion. It's kind of like not there anymore with Jennifer Aniston. With her, it's just basically, I'll see you in the bed, and that's it. So this was like a new ball game for him, and that was, like, all right, we got some fire going. But the things that he talked about, that Jennifer Aniston talked about, that people don't see and that they don't read or they don't pay attention to or they don't care about, is actual issues within the marriage. Once Brad Pitt was married, he started to realize something, that he had been deceived. Not to Jolie, but to Aniston. And he was ready to start a family. Because he's like, look, I'm not getting younger, I'm getting older, and I kind of want kids. So being married, that was one of the things and stipulations they talked about. But her timetable, Jennifer Aniston, and his timetable collided. It was like, hey, wait a minute, before we were engaged, we had this conversation. You were like, she's like, yeah, I'm thinking, I want to do it someday too, but like not like right away. We just got married, so she's like, let's give it some time, or like a year or two. And he's like, look, I want to be able to enjoy and run around with my kids and do things. I don't want to have kids when I'm too old to do anything with them. Jolie used that to her advantage because she wanted a family right away, and she's like, we're gonna adopt, we're gonna have our own kids, and she had it all mapped out. She wanted a family right away because that's what Brad wanted, and she knew that was the main sticking point. So Brad started putting pressure on Jennifer Aniston about kids and having kids and doing all this, and she was just not going to be pressured into doing it at the time. So they went home, had a long discussion, and he talked to her about it, and it was over. After the long vacation they had, after all the rumors and stories are floating around, they decided to separate. So now that that's happened, they're dating, not believing in marriage, just going around doing their thing, saying their marriage in spirit and all of this stuff. So Angelina has always been disturbed, so she would have outbursts when things wouldn't go her way, whether it was on the set or what have you. They own a lot of property, especially the one over in overseas. They own $60 million property there, and what she wanted to do was limit his mobility. And the older she got, the more mentally unstable she's becoming, because no one was addressing her issues. She had a problem when her mom passed away. She was struggling really bad to deal with that because she's so attached to her mom that her emotions get so high, she starts swinging, she breaks things, she treats people badly when she's feeling bad, she acts out. She's seen psychiatrists before. She's been, prescribed medication. And these are some of the things that led to the deterioration of the relationship. Brad took a break from Hollywood to basically take care of his family, have some kids. But his running crew, he used to hang out with Clooney and all of his guys, and they smoked stogies, drinking and hanging out. He missed that. And, he was back in the mix, and Angelina was feeling alone because she's like, I don't want Brad to run off with some young skirt, because she always accused him of cheating. Whenever she's feeling emotional, she would always assume he was cheating with somebody. and then they'll get into a big fight. Now, we're going to speed it up because I just wanted to give you a scenario of how destructive this relationship was. And they put on a smile for the public. So everyone was so happy. When she had the incident, when she came out for like one of the award shows and she stuck her leg out her dress, and everybody's like, oh my God, what is she doing with that old crinkly leg? And it's so malnutrition, and she looked like this, and she didn't get the response. This is the first time ever, like, she never got the type of response she's used to getting. And she blamed the photographer for altering the photo and trying to make it look worse than what it was. And she was, why are they doing this to me? She went into a rampage. And she was depressed because of it. Like, really, really, really depressed. And it led to a big fight, and they had basically, they went to do, when people go away to go do projects, they're basically trying to get away from each other for a while to cool down. Brad was back into work. Like, look, I'm back full time, like directing, acting. I got my Plan B projects coming out. And all the movies those two were doing together were not being well received. They weren't at every major movie theater. They wasn't basically making any money. They were just out there. Like, all of her films weren't really doing that well. Even the Disney film, Magnificent, it did okay in its first initial, couple of weeks. But for a Disney movie, it really wasn't that great. And, she would pick and choose projects she wanted to because they had so much money they didn't really have to or need to do anything. So, at this point, she's blaming Brad for every little thing that's going on because she's aging. And mentally, she sees wrinkles and all of these things. She can't take it going to the next level. And when she has to, she makes the decision to get her breasts removed because the cancer was in her family. And she made that decision. Before making that decision, she was an emotional wreck because her image and everything else, she didn't want to be disfigured, and it was a mental process with her going through that time that her and Brad Pitt went and got married in 2014. 2 years ago. They had been together for 10 years and decided to go and get married, finally. And they got married to try to save the marriage or relationship. And that's not what you do. So at this point, he was filming a movie and he was in the same vicinity as Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson was there promoting some project or some movie. Angelina wasn't going to be there. Brad was going to be there by himself. Angelina Jolie saw that he was having a conversation with Scarlett Johansson, like on the red carpet, and then said, she saw it from like a television screen, got on a plane, and says, stop everything, I'm going out there. I'm not going to the event. I'll be somewhere near, and told Brad I'm on my way. Meet me after the program. And he got scolded for being around Scarlett Johansson. She was terrifyingly jealous of Scarlett Johansson. Now, it's time for the surgery. She electedly, goes through the surgery, and she feels vulnerable now. She feels like it needed to be done. I'm still a woman, like they say, like the doctors tell them to keep them motivated, but she doesn't feel right. She feels she's terrified of getting cancer, and she's becomes psycho paranoid. With like, he's not gonna find me attractive, he's gonna leave me. One of those type of deals. So she's putting on this front basically that Brad's not a good father and this and that, when really she was over the top and all over the place. That was the real truth to the whole thing. Her being jealous of this co-star of his, or the Cartier, and they're having an affair, and her team is doing this for to try to give her face because Brad's did it before. And making this assumption that this is what he's going to do because she know it happened to her, what she did to Brad. So she's thinking now he's got another woman who's hot right now, and she's got an attractive body, and my body is now artificial. I don't have it anymore, and now he's going to leave me for another woman. Her mind is at that level. And she thinks Brad is going to eventually leave her. So enraged with thinking and assuming that they're having an affair and he's going to leave her, she tries to beat him to the punch and do it first. Out of paranoia. Ridiculous paranoia. His excessive drinking. She barred him from hanging out with Brad, from George Clooney. He stopped hanging out with George Clooney. He started hanging out with people like Jonah Hill, and that was okay for a while. And she stopped that. Quentin Tarantino, he was hanging out with Quentin Tarantino. She stopped all of that. I mean, by the time he tries to have a friend and hang out with him, she comes in and throws a monkey wrench into it and ruins it. So now, here comes the situation with the kids. She's got him. He's got to take the VADA or USADA test just to see his kids. He can't have a drink when he's around his kids. For what? He's never been found guilty of anything. Or guilty of being an alcoholic and all this stuff. But he agreed. Like, I'll take that. Just so I can see my kids. The abuse of the children. He's very abusive. And I'm like, where is DCFS in this situation? How's there an investigation on Brad Pitt? She's using all resources she can to try to make his life miserable through this entire divorce. Because what people don't know is that she had a minor ovarian surgery about like right after that. Also, to make her feel a little bit insecure as well. And she never recovered. And I think she needs help. I really do. Like, I mean, for years she's needed it. But they pacified it over her looks. Now nobody's really talking about how glamorous she is anymore, or how fabulous, and she's not getting that type of royal treatment she's used to getting. Like when those emails came out and she heard those execs talking about her at Sony and how they truly felt about her not being a real good talent, an alright actress, spoiled woman, it put her name in a negative light. She didn't like it. She wanted that person like kneecapped, like cut his career off for speaking about her in such a way. She would use her resources to destroy. So y'all thought I'd be scared to talk about this. I just didn't think y'all were the audience that wanted to hear about it. But if you want to hear about it, there it is. So now you know the whole layout. That's it. Now she's living next to Drake. Denise Richardson old house over there in Hidden Hills. So she's going to be sipping on the drink, trying not to think. Drake do not go over there.